Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Fab's in the house, and today I've got the Benchmade 943. As usual, we're gonna analyze the look, the sound, and the feel of this guy, but first of all, let's just do a quick size comparison. Let's do it up against his bigger brother, let's say, not so much for the size, but mainly for the price. Some other carbon fiber goodness over here. This is your mini glimpse from Pocketknife's Steelcraft edition. And let's take in some other carbon fiber goodies. We've got large Sebenza 21, and we have a ZT 470. As you can see, pretty comparable size with the ZT. And then another couple titanium options. This is the Paramilitary 3, and this is up against your Lion Steel tie spine. So there you go. Let's check out some visual aspects of this guy. This is pretty famous and easily recognizable Benchmade knife, Osborne design. This is the 943, so it's the 940 series, let's say. This is made in US, and as you can see, the lines are pretty iconic. I mean, this is well-renowned and knife, in the community, because it's good, it's relatively cheap, and it works. So, and it's also like pretty fidgety. It's a classic shape. This is the 943, so it has an aluminum handle, as you can see, and it's like it has this matte coating on it, which makes it a little bit more stealth, than the other option you can find, like for example in a green aluminum handle. This is an axis lock, so which means that the lock is right over here. There's a spring, a couple of springs, omega springs, like right on the inside, which like push this mechanism up here into a notch of the blade. So when you rotate, you see you push down the mechanism, and then you deploy the blade like that, and there's another notch right there, and the lock, boom, it's just gonna fall in place and lock the blade in place. When you want to release it, you just pull this back, and the blade is free to go back in the closed position. This is also like as partial liners on the inside, and they get up to this point right over here, so they're not all the way down. They're made of steel, and you have like these kind of like these fake bolsters. It's the same chunk of aluminum, but this would be technically the bolster side. So with this false groove, it creates the illusion of having like a bolster, and it's nice. I like this one. Of course, there's no finger grooves over here. You have chamfering going on, so it's the edges are well rounded, as you can see. Not so much on the inside, right over here. It's not sharp, but it's not like chamfered. You have around some nice jimping over here and over here, which are gonna create some nice, traction for your handle, nice grip. You have, T10 over here and T6 for these screws and the pocket clip screws. So very, very interesting fact that they coated these screws. So I appreciate that. It gives, an even more like badass kind of look. The screws are flush, you see, with the handle, so they disappear down the profile, so not protruding. And one thing, one gripe I have is with this pivot over here, because it's like extremely sensitive. You need to fine tune this one, otherwise you're gonna end up with too tight or too loose pivot. So either you're gonna have a blade play or you're gonna have a stiff action. So you just have to tune it, and like right now there's like no blade play, and the action is just drop shutty. So That's the only thing. It's not like you don't have like too much room for error. You need to just dial this in and you're going to be good to go. A little bit of Loctite and boom, job done. You can, as you can see, you have quite, some screws to unscrew when you're gonna disassemble this guy. If you drop this in the mud or in some grease and you want to clean it up, you need to, and if you want to complete disassemble this guy, it's gonna take a while if you want to fully disassemble it. You can also do like you take a shortcut and just remove the pivot, loosen a little bit, and just pull out the blade, but you're not gonna be doing like a full disassembly. Also, another thing is like the clip. It's meh. I mean, I'm not a fan of this like flat slab of whatever metal bent into this shape. I mean, I prefer 3D sculpted clips, but for the cost, I think that's what they could do. There's a nice clip ramp over here. This is tip up only, but it's reversible, so you can install it in like both sides. There's no lanyard hole on this one, and you have this nice blue anodized backspacer. It's like nicely ridged, and it has the same ridges that you find in both of the jimping. Blade centering is like, I would say, like, you see, favoring a tiny bit this side, just a little bit, but it's all right. This is, the 943, as you can see right over here, and it's sporting like a nice DLC coated clip point blade. This differs from the 940-1, for example, which is using S90V. Also, beside the shape, I mean, this is a clip point, the other one is like a modified reverse tanto, but this is softer. This is like 58 to 60 HRC, whereas the other one is going to be like 59 to 61. So a tiny bit softer, but probably easier to sharpen this one. As you can see, there's a nice wedge going on over here, which creates the illusion that this blade is thin. But this angle here still retains quite some thickness up to here. So it's not as thick as the 940-1 or 940, but because the stock is the same, but the tip is finer for sure. There's a nice sharpening choil over here, no finger choil, of course. And you have, like, if you check the edge symmetry, it's like kinda symmetric. There's a little bit of variation. It's a little bit wider, I think, on this side than on this side, but the grind symmetry, it's pretty much spot on. The jimping is nice. I mean, I appreciate the fact that you have on both sides much more like your Spyderco. You see, PM3 or PM2, you have jimping over here and jimping over here. I prefer this one. This is a little bit sharper. This is very similar over here, but I prefer this one because it gives you a little bit more traction. You have, there's no crowning really on the spine of this blade. You get no fuller. You have the classic Benchmade billboarding, Osborne design, blade steel, and the logo with the model over here. Again, not a fan of this, writings on the blade. I prefer like a cleaner look, like, something like this. Much nicer to the eye, You have these thumb stud over here to deploy the blade if you want. So you can just, use it like that, or you can just, pull the lock back and just deploy the blade like this. So you have a couple options over here. There's no skeletonization in the handles, and yeah, so let's check out some a little bit of sound, because it's this is a quite peculiar sound. So hear this. Okay, this is not a loud sound, but it's like percussive. It's not sharp, but it's like a nice clack mixed with a thump. I don't know how to describe this one, because it's yeah. It's it's dampened in a way, and the closing sound is gonna be very similar, you know, like, because of course you have this axis lock, so you're gonna have basically this part of the blade hitting up against the same pin which is here. So it's, you know, it makes sense that the sound is very, very similar. So here, so very, very interesting sound. Not the best sound ever, but it's quite nice. Let's handle a little bit this guy, because this is a lightweight. This is 2.9 ounces. You have, when you squeeze the handle, you have just a tiny bit of hot spot over here at the tip of the clip. Just a little bit digging into your finger, not a huge deal, but it's there. But there are no sharp edges, you know, around. It's quite nicely rounded, so it's gonna feel pretty well in your hand, except for the fact that it's a tiny bit slim. So, you know, you don't have like really much stuff to hang on to, but it's gonna work for sure. As well as like, you know, reverse grip works pretty well, even if you know, I have quite large hands, but you know, it's gonna work because you see it sticks out a little bit, like for my thumb, just to do this triangular shape. So it's pretty good. There's not really like much option to choke this up, because this is not really like a finger choil. You're gonna, you know, it's sharp over here, but at the end, you know, it feels quite solid, even if it's a lightweight for me. Texture is pretty smooth. I would say a little bit rougher, even if it's not rough at all, than the 940-1, which is in carbon fiber, which is a little bit smoother and slippy. But it's, I mean, this is a slick finish. I like this one. I like the fact that it's matte, and you know, there's no gaps, no like moving parts whatsoever. The clip ramp is gives like a nice tension, nice springy tension over here, and if you check the balance of this one, it's gonna be somewhere like here. You see, a little bit more recessed to the back, not like perfectly balanced right up to the pivot. When you open this knife, I mean, the feeling you're gonna get, it's like super pleasant. This is, you know, a really fidgety knife. You can just, you know, use two hands. All right, if you're like not in a hurry, you can just deploy two hands, just unlock and just close it. Or you can just do like a thumb flick like this, okay? Or you can just do like a spidey flick like that. Or you can just do like a deployment just by pulling back the lock, like something like this, and just close it like that. So you see, it's very, very fidgety, very fast, and it's smooth. I mean, the only thing regarding the feeling of this one is that these two guys, like the thumb stud and this button over here for the lock, are a little bit sharp, as you can see. Not very well rounded, and they're gonna cause some finger sore, you know, if you're gonna be fidgeting all day long. So, you know, that's probably something that I would round off a little bit. You have like no kickback when you deploy the blade, because the blade is relatively light in weight. So you know, you're not gonna have like that feeling, for example, when you deploy like a much heavier weight, that, you know, the handle is gonna tend to do this movement over here. The tip of the blade is pretty nicely recessed, so it's quite safe. There's no way you're gonna be able to touch with your fingertip, and there's a little bit actually of rattling if you don't hold the lock, the axis lock, just a little bit, because this has a little bit of play. All right, so when you close the blade, you know, this is a, you know, DLC coated blade, so you're gonna have a little bit of lock stick at the beginning, because I mean, I got this one new, so if you deploy like this one strong, hear this. You see, there's lock stick, and I believe it's because this side of the blade, I don't know, it's new, so I don't know. This is something that I find out, and for example, on the oops, this is the 940-1. There's none. So something to keep in mind. Not sure why this is like this, but I'm pretty confident it's gonna wear out with time. All right, or maybe I'll try some Sharpie to get rid of this lock stick. Of course, this is like a free falling knife. As soon as you release the lock, the blade is just gonna fall, like, you know, for gravity. And as long as you keep the lock in the like pull down, you know, the blade is just gonna go back to the closed position. So yeah. You have also some nice, like, let's say, detent suction, because look at this. From up here, and I love this. Look at this, the blade gets sucked in, and it's a nice effect. You also can, you know, if you, as long as you know, keep this down, you know, the blade is just freely spinning, and you know, it's a truly nicely knife, especially if you're like a fidgeter. If you like to fidget with this one, you're gonna be pretty happy. So there you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned.